Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of Now. I'm Alex Mahajer. It is Thursday, February 18th, and this morning, Senator Ted Cruz, flies to Cancun, Mexico on a tropical vacation amidst the worst natural disaster in terms of the financial cost in Texas's history, the most costly natural disaster in Texas's history. A lot of criticism that he's drawing for that trip this morning. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about who is funding this anti-renewable electricity and renewable energy campaign that's being launched by the Texas Republican Party, and cover some of today's top headlines. All of this and more on the AM Report. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. I'm Alex Mahajer. If you're watching on the HAPS app, website, or platform, click the award button. Let us know you're enjoying it. I want to thank Peter Bittner for the Newsworthy Award right off the bat. Thank you, Peter. And thank you for everyone for chiming in already. Helen from Edinburgh, good to see you. Let's see. Deborah from Indianapolis, good morning, good to see you. Pablo says, hey Alex, hey Pablo, good to see you. Lisa Sansusi from Los Angeles chiming in. Texas Saint on Twitter is saying, I forgot Ted Cruz was made out of energy. Really very funny. Ted Cruz, good old Ted Cruz, insurrectionist Ted Cruz. Off to Cancun with his family. Helen says, nice background. Thank you, Helen. I appreciate that. This is the new studio for the show. Shivani says, Ted Cruz should not be allowed to continue representing Texas. This is insane. And we are going to talk about that. Thank you so much for the Super Heart Award, Helen. Still don't understand why Tucker has a job. Oh, wait. Yeah, agreed. My good old friend, Tucker Carlson, thanks for that comment, Pablo de la Hoya. I love seeing your comments from across the country and around the world. So leave a comment if you're watching on Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, and we'll bat around with each other live on air. We've got a lot of headlines to cover this morning, so let's jump into it. Let's see, before we get into the Texas energy crisis, I don't want to bury the lead, but I do want to cover some of today's headlines, and then we'll jump right into Texas. Okay, Trump's debt may make him a national security threat, according to intelligence agencies. They're worried that because he left office with millions of dollars, maybe up to $1 billion in debt to foreign countries and foreign entities and foreign banks, that he could be a national security threat, that foreign spies may be targeting him in order to gain his access to U.S. intelligence secrets. As we know, former presidents do get national security briefings and classified intel briefings. So this has been, intelligence agencies are ringing the alarm about what Trump is willing to do in order to pay off his debts. We know he was willing to incite an insurrection at the Capitol and campaign for months after the election was lost on this stop the steal rhetoric to make money. And that was a grift. That was a grift to pay off his debts. And so we'll see what happens, but that's an alarming headline that's being popped up this morning. Democrats are going to announce this morning a immigration overhaul bill. This is going to be a bill that completely overhauls the United States immigration policies. The plan is backed by President Joe Biden, and it's basically going to create a pathway for legal status for millions of immigrants who are living in the country without authorization. So the law creates a two-tier legalization program, which would automatically make farmers, temporary protected status holders, and undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as children eligible for green cards. And then after 3 years, they could apply to become U.S. citizens. So that is the news that we are going to be hearing today out of congressional Democrats who are backing Joe Biden's plan for an immigration overhaul reform bill. And we will see this pan out over the coming days. Democrats in all branches of government clearly implying and suggesting explicitly, actually, that they are planning on moving forward with multiple urging crises and issues at the same time. That COVID-19 relief is just one of many things that they're going to be tackling right now. Arizona and the Arizona Republican Party is launching a full-on attack on voting rights in the aftermath of the Joe Biden victory in what has been a traditionally reliably red state. So a slew of bills has been introduced by Arizona Republican lawmakers that would restrict ballot access, purge voter registrations, and overhaul the state's election system in a way that is causing a coalition of voting rights groups in Arizona to ring alarms about this. As we know, voter suppression is a problem in states like Georgia and has been used to great success in states like Georgia. And when when voting rights access is made more available to people, that more people turn out, and Democrats tend to win when more people turn out. So now the Arizona Republican Party has to bite back what they fear is probably a takeover by Democrats in that state, that they have now ceded what was reliably Republican territory to Democratic voters, because the Democrats in states like Arizona and Georgia, where we saw successful election victories by President Joe Biden, are turning out voters who have previously not been franchised in those states, who have not previously been participants in the process, rather than try to convince people of the opposing party to cross party lines. That is not a winning strategy. In states like Arizona and Georgia, the strategy has been, let's turn out new voters, and that resulted in wins for Democrats. So Democrats across the country who are worried about retaining control of the House, the Senate, in 2022 ought to look no further than Arizona and Georgia, and also ought to make sure that they defend against assaults on voting rights in those states, because that's what Republicans do. That's what the Republican Party has done, rather. I don't want to generalize about all Republicans, but that's what the Republican Party has done to maintain power in the United States, despite being in the minority, is to make sure that they beat back voters and suppress voters. So keep your eyes on Arizona. The Capitol Police are investigating 2 GOP lawmakers. The names have not been released, but we know that these incidents have occurred involving GOP lawmakers and the new metal detectors that have been installed outside of the U.S. House of Representatives in the aftermath of the January 6th Capitol insurrection. So one of these incidents is involving a member of Congress who roughly forced his way past a police officer and bypassed the metal detectors. The other is involving a lawmaker trying to bring a gun onto the House floor. We can only guess who these lawmakers could possibly be, but we know that a Huffington Post reporter witnessed both of these incidents and is now participating in the investigation into these incidents to see whether or not they need to be disciplined. As we know, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, implemented a new rule in the House that would implement fees of penalties of a great amount, $5,000 first for the first penalty, $10,000 for the second penalty for lawmakers that bring a gun onto the House floor. And that's deducted straight from their paychecks. So we'll see what happens with this. All in all, following the Capitol insurrection, it's very important to make sure that we keep our eyes on making sure that we have peace in the Capitol and that the business of government is allowed to proceed uninterrupted. Now, to the lead. Millions of people are without power today and water as an ice storm rocks a large swath of the country. Now, Texas has been particularly hard hit by this. Out of more than 1 million people in the U.S. who did not have electricity, Texas accounted for nearly half, with about 511,000 as of today. The state dropped below 1 million power outages for the first time Thursday. This has been going on for 3 or 4 days now, where people haven't had power. So the number of people without power has reduced, but it was over 1 million at one point. And water service has been disrupted for more than 12 million Texans, forcing many of the more than 680 water systems in the state to issue boil water notices. People are having to go get water from spigots in public spigot lines, to get water from lakes and rivers and try to boil them, but they can't boil them because they don't have power. And so we've got some video from Hayden County, Texas, and in Hayden, Texas, and this is people trying to, it's like a visual of a third world country, people trying to get water from spigots just to be able to drink and bathe. Here is the video of that, very alarming. altogether very alarming. And it's not just Texas. I want to note before we launch into Ted Cruz and what a detestable figure Ted Cruz is. It's not just Texas. Utility crews across the country are trying to restore power for about 3.4 million customers who were still without electricity. And another blast of ice and snow is threatening to create more chaos in these states. So Texas, Arkansas, the lower Mississippi Valley, and now it's moving into the northeast portion of the country. And Texas Republicans are falsely blaming the crisis on renewable energy, including Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and we're getting to you, Ted, and others, Dan Crenshaw, House Republican. So Ted said, despite all this, Senator Ted Cruz was spotted yesterday flying to Cancun with his family as people are freezing to death in his state. There are at least 10 deaths in Texas. Some are reporting up to 20 deaths because of the power crisis and the storm. And Cruz has not only criticized renewable energy and blamed blue states for their energy policies, criticized blue states for their energy policies, but social media exploded last night as pictures were taken guerrilla style of Ted Cruz at the airport in Houston getting on a flight to Cancun with his family despite what's going on in his state. And the internet exploded. People were not sure whether it was real or not. We've got some pictures for you, and I come with receipts, guys. So let's see some photos that were bouncing around on Twitter yesterday of Ted Cruz and his wife Heidi. Here's one in the line at the airport. Apparently, he was trying to fly standby for a first-class ticket. Didn't make it into his first-class seat. His wife wasn't on the standby list. Just him. Fitting for the guy who allowed the then candidate Donald Trump to insult his wife and then campaign for him a month later. But here's another photo. A series of photos of Ted Cruz on the plane flying to Texas amidst a crisis in his state. Earlier, what makes this really even more detestable is that earlier in the week, when tweets that Ted Cruz had posted criticizing California and blue states for their renewable energy policies resurfaced, he tweeted out that he had no defense for his previous comments. Here's Ted Cruz's tweet from earlier this week. A blizzard strikes our state and our state shuts down. Not good. Stay safe. I've got no defense. And this is in response to his tweets mocking California power outages that were resurfaced amid the winter crisis in his own state. I got no defense, says Ted Cruz. And he certainly doesn't. And why defend himself? Why not just fly to Cancun? Let's go take a tropical vacation to Cancun as Texans in your state die. And you blame renewable energy and the Green New Deal, which isn't even a law. So an analysis by Earther looked into who is funding these Texas Republicans like Greg Abbott, Senator Ted Cruz, and Congressman Dan Crenshaw. And oil and gas industries paid big money to Texas GOP, the Texas Republicans who are lying about the energy crisis. So these GOP politicians are falsely blaming frozen wind turbines on their energy crisis in Texas, but they're lying, and they've all been paid off. This analysis showed that these Senator Cornyn, Senator Cruz, Congressman Crenshaw, they've scapegoated renewable energies throughout this week, but they've received campaign donations from more than 30 companies in the oil and gas industry in just the past year alone, including from multinational organizations like Exxon and Chevron to more local power players like Texas Transeastern and Wild Horse Energy in just the past year alone. And then blame wind turbines and the Green New Deal for what is basically a failed state. Texas right now is a failed state. They don't have power for millions of people or water for millions of people. It's a failed state. And they're trying to lay the blame. That's such a gaslighting tactic. When are you going to get wise to this, Texas Republicans? You had an opportunity to get rid of Ted Cruz 2 years ago with Beto O'Rourke. I can't understand why anyone would look at those two people and think, but Cruz is a Republican. Let's keep voting for him. He's detestable. And so what we're hearing is Ted Cruz is on his way back. He got outed. He's embarrassed, and now he's on his first flight back to the United States. He also want to note he got a security detail. But Yes, he got a security detail and a police escort to the airport too. He wanted to travel in style. That's Senator Ted Cruz for you. What do you guys think about all this? Let me know. I want to play this clip of Ted Cruz talking about this on a radio program on the 15th, just a few days ago. Here's Ted Cruz talking about the state's energy crisis.
This storm is dangerous, and there's a second storm expected to hit this week, which will make things even worse. So if you can stay home, don't go out on the roads, don't risk the ice. I was speaking this weekend with a meteorologist expert who was saying the combination of these two storms, we could see up to 100 people lose their lives this week in Texas. So don't risk it. Keep your family safe, and just stay home and hug your kids.
So far.
All right, and that's Senator Ted Cruz. Got a lot of comments shining in. Charmaine says, meanwhile, Beto is organizing call checks to help Texans, which is what Senator Ted Cruz should be doing. Someone's calling this sheeple for covering the fake media story and covering Ted Cruz's reaction. I think it's very, very salient and very interesting to note that the U.S. Senator from the state of Texas flew to a tropical vacation as this was happening. Meanwhile, his opponent from 2018, Beto O'Rourke, is organizing call checks to help people. And that's what we expect our elected leaders to do. Jose Rodriguez says, what a two-face. He wants to build a wall, but then he's flying to Mexico for a vacation. Finally got power back after 3 days. Says, Heavenly Dew, I'm glad that you got power back after 3 days. It shouldn't have taken that long. Stephanie Vogt says, yes, Cruz is a horrid senator. And yet he's there because of partisanship, because people would rather vote for a Republican. Here's a question from Bobby OS Gamer. The question is, what is expected from a leader or representative? To act separate and protect from their constituents, to govern or legislate from afar, or to walk with the masses as one of them, sharing in the suffering? I think my opinion is all three. If your constituents are suffering, what are you doing to fix it? If you're going on a vacation to Mexico, it's probably not that you're working on fixing it. And he even tweeted out earlier in the week, I got no defense. This is a bad issue. Going to Mexico. Bye-bye. Let's see. Raymond says, I hope everyone there gets their power back and their water supply back. At the end of the day, here's what's up with that. Is once the energy companies are saying that once the temperature goes above 30, 32, and it goes above freezing, that they can start restoring power, and the water pipes will start defrosting, and that they'll be able to start restoring service. So as the weather improves, so will the energy situation. And so there we go. Someone's defending Ted Cruz, saying he does all this work remotely. Going to Cancun doesn't mean he'll be outside sunbathing the whole time. Yeah, you'll do any. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You'll go to any lengths to defend this guy. It's so partisan and stupid. It's just so partisan and stupid. He's flew to Mexico as the rest of his state is freezing literally to death. And if you really believe that, then why is he flying back? Because he got caught. Why is he flying back? Because he got caught. Don't defend. These people represent you. I don't understand why people are so quick to defend elected officials just because of their party lines. You don't need to. He represents the people, and he's failed. It doesn't need to be a partisan issue. You don't have to defend Ted Cruz just because you might vote Republican. Ted Cruz, hold him accountable, for Pete's sake. This is the AM Report for Haps News, the network of now. We are live every weekday morning with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it. You can subscribe at haps.tv/@Alex, become a recurring monthly subscriber. Buy me a cup of coffee if you like. Click the award button, or just click subscribe and receive notifications when we go live every morning. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Rance Collins, editor-in-chief of 800 Democrat, to discuss this and more. Love seeing your faces, love seeing your comments. I hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, and have a good Thursday. Bye-bye.